Hope everybody's doing well. It's another time for another edition of the Online Dinner Party. I'm your host, Mark Lee, and of course, we've got amazing guests. As you can tell, I'm over at the Hayti Heritage Center, where we've got a lot of things going on and a lot of events taking place, including the Candidates Forum. So that'll be something that'll be fun that folks will be checking out and learning about the various candidates and all along those lines. So it ought to be an exciting conversation, and we'll be interested to see what people have to say as they learn about Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, and our mayoral candidates and all along those lines. So that's one of the things that is going on here on this particular day. And we've also got a concert, which is a partnership that we're doing with the folks over there at Duke and all along those lines at American Tobacco and all in that kind of way. So definitely they will have Shana Tucker performing at 6 o'clock. So it'll be a celloist, if I remember Shana's instrument correctly, and all along those lines. And there'll be other performers as well. But it's a lovely day. It's actually pretty decent weather. I think it's like around the 80s or something like that, and all along those lines, even though there's temperatures in the 50s as well. So definitely there's a lot of great weather, and it definitely doesn't look like there's any rain anytime in the forecast soon. But I'm going to find out how things are going where Gigi's at, as well as where Greg and Felicia are, and learn about the different things that they've got going on as well. So I'm going to bring in Gigi Meyer first and see how she's doing and all along those lines. So how are you doing, Gigi? I know that you've been very much got a lot of things going on in your life, and you talk a lot about relationships and what's going on in that space and all along those lines. So I love having different folks on at the dinner party and learning what they've got going on in their life. So share with us a little bit about what's going on in your life and what kind of things you're working on in these days and times.
Thanks, Mark, for having me. I appreciate this online dinner party is such a brilliant idea. So thank you. What I have going on, a million things. So I have 2 podcasts of my own. They're dedicated to authors and author interviews. So I'd like to meet new and aspiring authors and those that have been very well published. I feel like everybody has a book in them. And it's my opportunity to talk to other authors and writers to tell you how to do it too. And then I also just published my 14th spicy romance novel on Friday. So in the process of writing number 15.
What makes a book romantic and all along those lines? I know a lot of folks, including friends of mine, that have said they want to be romance writers and all along those lines. And I know that even some of your books you say will break your heart, rip your guts out, and then restore hope in relationships. Because I know sometimes people are not all that enthusiastic about relationships because of the nature of what we hear about divorces and all along those lines. So what is it that is a good quality to have to be a great romance writer?
Well, great question, Mark. The good thing about romance writing is we can make these fictional boyfriends that are basically perfect, right? So you can, if you're in your 20s or 30s, you can go out on that terrible date, come back, wash off all the makeup, get cozy and snuggle in with your fictional boyfriend. And he will love every single part of you and accepting every single part of you. So what woman wouldn't want that?
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of women would be wanting that and all along those lines. I know that one of my coworkers actually brought their pet with them, and a lot of times that's what people need to have in their romances as well. So how important is it to have the strong companion, even including animal companions as well?
Oh, that's so cute because I do switch off. And I know this shouldn't be a formula, but I usually do no pet, cat, dog, and in that order because I want to appeal to every audience. And so there's a lot of single ladies tend to be cat people. And I think it's precious. So the 15th book I'm writing now, she has a tiny little chihuahua named Paco. And so her love interest has never been around dogs, but he's going to end up taking care of Paco a lot. And she's going to come home to find this tiny little chihuahua inside like a baby Bjorn that he wears. And he's over there hanging out watching TV with her chihuahua snuggled on his chest. Isn't that perfect? What woman wouldn't want that?
That is perfect. I know my mom just recently picked up a Shih Tzu because we tried to give her a big dog because my brother has had several big dogs and she's had big dogs in the past. She had a Great Dane at one point when she was much younger, but mom was in her 80s, 83 and everything like that. So we're going to let her deal with a smaller dog, and the smaller dog has definitely bonded with her and all along those lines. So they spend a lot of time together, and then they just decided to go to the local vet because they live in a town called Rocky Mount and everything like that. So they are now bonded at the hip and all along those lines. So it's a small dog and definitely a cute little dog. Now, a lot of people will be going like, you retired from 30 years in corporate America to write romance novels. So what did get you to go from romance to from corporate America to writing romance?
Such a good question. I think really it's about reinvention. You get to be a certain age, and I won't tell you mine, but 30 years in corporate America speaks to itself. And so it was the epitome of my career. I had gotten to the C-suite, or I was the chief administration officer of a $4 billion publicly traded company. And I was the youngest, the youngest in many regards, youngest female, and female youngest in executives. And so I could easily stay in that position another 10, 20 years. But I thought, oh my gosh, is this it? This is the pinnacle of success. And while I was grateful, I thought there has to be something more. Like, I knew that I had storytelling in my heart. I had written stories, just like cathartic, get me through difficult times, romance novels, etc. And so when I had 10 of those just lingering finished on my laptop, I thought, if I don't take the plunge now, I never will. You hear the phrase golden handcuffs. That 100% was me.
Wow.
And so I thought, I don't want to die with my music inside. So it's either now or never.
That makes a lot of sense. Before I bring in one of the other guests, and we've got two other guests at this lovely dinner party and all along those lines, just really quickly, how do you balance work-life balance? Because you kind of alluded to it before, even with your characters and everything, but I know that that's something we talk about on the dinner party quite often, is how you can balance the work and the life all together, because sometimes it is difficult and we sometimes don't have that holistic approach to life.
Oh, that's 100% true. And I'm also a single mother, and I am a only household family. And so it is the balance of the children's schedules, supporting their dreams as they chase them down, and also trying to work. For example, we had my son is in select baseball. And if you know anything about baseball in Texas, it's huge. So you travel 7 weeks. We did 7 tournaments in 8 weeks across 3 states. And then we had 2 college baseball visits. So I have written my 14th book that I published last Friday, has been written in baseball parking lots, hotel rooms. Anytime there's an extra moment, I'm writing a romance novel on the road.
Wow, that's really good that you're doing that, because I know I'm gonna bring in Felicia Garrett and see what she's got going on as well, because I know Felicia Garrett is one that has definitely done a lot about mixing life and church, faith and religion, and all along those lines, along those other things. So you're a recovering superwoman. So it sounds like that definitely our first guest is a superwoman. And I do remember a book that Michelle Wallace talked about the myth of the superwoman and all along those lines. So what is your thoughts around being a recovering superwoman, and what does that mean to be a recovering superwoman dedicated to helping other women embrace life and all along those lines? And I know that it's embracing life with a certain kind of goal and everything like that. So talk to us about this whole notion of being a recovering superwoman. You're on mute, Felicia.
Thank you so much. I like the way that sounds, a recovering superwoman. I'm sorry I was distracted, Gigi, because I was like looking up your books, and I'm just like clutching my pearls over here.
They're spicy.
I know. I'm gonna have to check that out. Thank you. But a superwoman, I think I'm going to take that label, Mark, if that's okay. Yeah. I don't know if I describe myself as such, but now that you say that, I can say that I am a superwoman because I have come through quite a bit in life, and I really love where I have landed thus far. And so my goal is to help other women who may have struggled in their life in many different areas of life and heal some of their trauma and past experiences so that they can thrive in life as well. And so that's a huge part of the work that I do as an emotion code and body code practitioner, and as a transformational life coach, which I've been doing for about 12 years now.
What is a transformational life coach? What does that mean? And how do you transform somebody's life? Because I know on some of these other shows, I've talked to people that are even talking about that imposter syndrome, where they don't necessarily go after the goals that they want and all along those lines. So what is your thoughts as to how that is done and all along those lines?
Yeah. Well, how I got into the transformational life coaching is I started out as an emotion code practitioner. And what I do is I help people identify through muscle testing different trapped emotions that are within their body. And so when we experience trauma or heightened emotional situations, the energy from those emotions can get trapped in the muscles, the tissues, the organs of the body, and they can start really affecting us on a physical level, an emotional level, a mental level. And then we start to perceive life through the filters of those trapped energies, particularly around the heart. And what I started to discover in like my first year of doing this work that we would release different emotions and then people would keep coming back. And sometimes we would be working on the same emotion. And I started thinking like, this is not the kind of practice that I want. I don't want to have a revolving door. I really want to help people to shift and to experience life differently and not have a revolving door. So I came into transformational life coaching because I thought, well, people really need to change how they think. They really need to observe how they think and to make changes to their perceptions and to really be challenged in some of their belief systems and really make some shifts in that and really be held accountable and held to the fire and making some of these changes within their life, and couple that with releasing energy from the body on an emotional level. I found that that was most effective. So for the last 11 years, I've been coupling that transformational life coaching with the emotional release that's really helping people to take responsibility for where they are as adults and to take their healing to the next level.
Yeah. And I know a lot of what you do is breathing techniques. So how does those breathing techniques work? Because I know a lot of people are very much wanting to get into better breathing techniques, but don't always know how to make those techniques work to the benefit of their life and everything like that. Because I know one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up in is this whole notion that we're supposed to get a certain amount of rest. We're supposed to get a certain amount of me time and everything along those lines. But unfortunately, I know of many entrepreneurs and many in the creative field that don't seem to know how to manage that partially work-life balance, but also just that me time. Because a lot of times we're too busy trying to work. There's 24 hours in a day, but some of us, I think that there's 28 hours in a day, and all along those lines. So, how do you manage to get people to actually understand that there are only 24 hours in a day? We can't change the time.
Yeah, well, back to your original question with the breath work, like breath work can change your whole life. We are breath, we are spirit. And so we just go through life these 24, hours within the day, just breathing shallow, really not paying attention to our breath, really not honoring our breath, which really is the essence of who we are. And so breath work journeys really help to take us deep in, and it helps us to breathe in a certain pattern of breath that it can go into the body and release so much trapped energy and trauma from the body simply through the medicine of breath work journeys. And so if people are having hard times of finding the space or finding the proper practitioners that can take you on these amazing transformative breath work journeys, you can do simple breath work techniques. Listen, I don't even like breath work, if I be honest, because it is work. Sometimes it doesn't feel so good because as we put ourselves in a state where we're breathing certain patterns, the breath in its magical way will go to the places within our body where we need release, where we need to release anxiety, where we need to refocus, where we need to rewire, where we need to, realign ourselves, and it will do the work for us. But we do have to set aside the time to do it. And if people are struggling to find that space, what I use is it's an app that's called Othership. I've been using this every day. I'm addicted to it. I used it yesterday, of course, when I felt like I don't want to do any more work. I just found this 4-minute refocus, reset breath work. And I did some breath work, just guided breath work. And bam, I boosted my energy back up. I got back to working. I reset. And when you find different apps like Othership, there's another one, I think, I don't know what the other one is called. It's on the tip of my tongue, but Othership is Listen. I use it when I wake up in the morning when I want to meditate. I use it when I need to be reset. I use it when I have a little bit of anxiety. I use it when I feel stuck. And they have hundreds of different breathwork journeys that you can just 3 to 5 minutes to some to 15, some to 60 minutes that you can use depending on your time. And it helps to reset you in so many different ways. So I highly suggest Othership to people. It's a website and an app. Oh, I don't know what happened to Mark. I could talk more about breath work all day, every day. I don't know, Gigi, if you have any questions about it at all, or have you used breath work at all in your life?
Oh, I love this kind of talk. I love mirror work. I love EFT tapping.
Yeah, that was EFT tapping was my first introduction into energy work. I come from a Christian background,
Same.
and I had just had a divorce, and I had a great job in corporate. I was able to care for my children. Life was good. I felt free, but I was just so sad and depressed, and I didn't understand. I was like, I'm finally free. I'm out of this horrible relationship. I got a great job. I'm able to care for my children. Like, what is this thing? And I couldn't find the freedom within my religion. And so I literally went to Google. And I don't even remember a question I asked, but it was something like, how do I get free? Like, how do I feel better? And EFT tapping came up. And I started to watch YouTube videos. I started to go to YouTube University and started watching videos. And I was like, this is some poppycock. Like, this doesn't work, But then I was like, I didn't have another option. So I was like, let me try it. So, it always starts out with the karate chop, you say your statement. And the most profound experience with EFT with me was when I started tapping the first time. You're supposed to say, like, my first thing was like, even though I feel depressed, I love and
accept myself.
And I stopped right there. You're supposed to say, I love and completely accept myself. And I had the realization that I've never said I love myself. I never even thought of loving myself. And
we're a mom. When you're a mom and a caregiver and a breadwinner, that's selfish.
Never crossed my mind. And big crocodile tears started to run down my face, and embarrassment within myself that I've never thought to love myself. I've only thought of, how do I show up? How do I give? How do I serve? How do I make life better for others? How do I, I was stuck in that. And so I pushed through, and EFT shifted me totally. So I encourage people to look up emotional freedom technique or tapping, and it's phenomenal. How have you used it, Gigi?
So I use it every morning. And so I don't know, I feel like there's no right way. I feel like what it's, you can start with the principles, right? To teach yourself. And then it kind of morphs into what works best or what is more communicative for you and your body. Like you said, we get trapped areas of emotion. And so for me, I start with that one, I love and accept myself the first time. And then you're supposed to have like a little break, like a mental break or activity break, to let that energy dissipate. And then the second time around is what I want to work on. And so it's usually limiting beliefs. We all have them, and they're different ones every single day, or they're different ones throughout the day. Like, you can start off the morning like feel like a rock star, and then something happens, the phone call, the email, etc. And then all of a sudden you're like, this is never going to happen. And when you're talking about imposter syndrome, I feel like so many women have that because we're used to needing all the answers before we apply for the promotion, where men typically will apply for the promotion and get it and then just figure it out as they go. And so the second round of tapping for me is usually like what I'm trying to work on. That's long-term limiting beliefs, that collect. And then the third one, I try to break up to where it's okay today. What is bubbling up today? And so I don't know if that's necessarily like how it's supposed to go. But I kind of morphed it into what works best for me, because I want to work all angles. I want to love and accept myself. I want to clear old beliefs, and I want to also, clear out the new, or address the ones that are rising.
Yeah. I think it's wonderful that, like, it sounds like you use tapping every day. I use breath work every day. And so it's so important for people to find the tools that really work for them and start incorporating them, and to really create routines and patterns where they're using them so they can really experience transformation in their life through the consistency of different practices. And so I think it's wonderful you've brought up one, and I use one every day. You use one every day, and it's highly effective for us both.
So when you do the breath work, I've heard of like a 4 count, 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out. But you're saying this is beyond. I mean, to me, that's a very simple one that most of us can do in the car, when you're commuting, on the train, at work. But are there more expanded sessions? Like, how long could a session of breath work go?
Absolutely. I help to lead journeys. So journeys they can be an hour or longer, where you are breathing, in a particular breath, right? And this is where the true transformation comes through when you breathe for an extended period of time, focused on a particular topic or something that you're seeking to release, let go, harmonize with within the body, and you stick to breathing. So one particular one that I teach, where it's like an hour, it can be an hour and 15 minutes, is breathing deep into the belly, breathing into the chest, and releasing. And so it's taking about 80% of your breath into the belly, 20% into the chest, and releasing, and staying on that pattern for about an hour, where you can be focusing on letting go of trauma. You can be focused on healing ancestral wounds. You can be focusing on releasing that last, relationship that is really impacting you in this life, in this time now. And so you focus on a particular topic and you stay within that breath pattern. And I went to a women's retreat. I don't know, it had to be about 10 years ago. And we did breath work for like 3 days. It changed my whole life. I left that event and I was not the same. And you ever had these pivotal moments in your life where you can pinpoint and say, from that moment, from that experience, my life was changed and transformed. And that was one of those experiences where we just did breath work. And I knew about energy work and tapping and emotion code and all that stuff, but I did not know about the medicine of our breath and breathing and patterns. And my life changed after that. I met my husband after that. Remarried after that. My career changed after that. I mean, it just changed so much. And so that has what led me into now offering breath work now as medicine to others as well. And it really is just our breath, using that and someone guiding us, and using music and using bilateral beats and using different affirmations that play in the background. It can create this soup, like this amazing soup that we can take in and soothe and heal the body, the mind, the soul, the spirit, all at one time. It's amazing.
Okay, I find that fascinating. I have 2 questions though.
Yeah.
I do believe in hertz, listening to your frequencies, because I feel like that does bring up things. But when you say it changed your life, what did it specifically do? Because I know we hear that phrase so much. And if you're on any kind of social media, they're like, top 10 things to change your life, right? We're such a hustle culture. But what does that really mean? Did it like free you mentally? Did it clear out some old wounds? What does that mean?
Thank you for asking. And I appreciate you asking that question, because I agree with you. That's a term that can just fly off. Did it change my life? And so how it changed my life is it totally shifted my energy and my perspective of where I was in life right now. And so before I came to the event, I felt so heavy. I felt really defeated in some areas. I felt there was a lack of momentum in my life. I felt like I was just searching for something and searching for myself. And when I left that event, I felt as if I was reborn in a degree, reborn in the sense that I felt like my perspective on life had changed. I was able to take the things that felt like they were weighing me down and things that were holding me back. My perspective totally shifted, and I was able to glean from it. Wow, how this has made me stronger. I've grown for this. I've learned from this. Man, this has made me, what Mark said earlier, a superwoman. I don't have to see this as a downfall or defeat. My divorce failing, my marriage failing, my life, my current situation in my work environment failing. I don't have to see this. This is what I've learned from that. And so it made me leave feeling like more empowered and more in a place where I can trust myself to make the decisions that needed to be made in my life to move forward. And it was a long-term experience. It wasn't like the hype of an event. And you know how you can go to these, I've gone to Tony Robbins events. I've gone to all these things that hype you up. And I'm not saying that I've experienced people experience some amazing transformational things from those events. So I'm not knocking them. But what I'm saying is it gave me a long-term experience where I was able to, and after that, meet my current husband, and I'm in the most amazing relationship. I'm probably like in one of those relationships on the cover of one of your books that I just,
That's wonderful, though.
An amazing relationship. It shifted my career. It even shifted how I serve other people. And it gave me a great sense of long-term empowerment. And so it shifted the direction and the trajectory of my life. Just through those 4 weeks, because I was able to clear so much stuff that was weighing me down that I wasn't even aware that was weighing me down. But in that incubator, so to speak, that the retreat created, it created a space where I were able to pull that stuff up, assess it, look at it, understand it, reframe it. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that information was transformative for me. And to this day, that what I do is now I create women's transformational retreats. And I do have some that are coming up in 2026. And so it changed my life in so many ways.
Yeah. You're hosting them for yourself?
I am. I'm hosting them. I had the first one I did was healing from sexual trauma. I've done healing from relationships. So I found that a lot of women, men, and I'll just say women, because a lot of my focus goes towards helping and assisting women to heal from some of the wounds. But another retreat I did was women who want to release from past relationships. Women, we are receivers. And so when we connect in relationship sexually, emotionally, within relationships, and when they end, we can still hold on to a lot of that energy, a lot of the anger that can come up, the emotions that come up from it. And so I had a retreat on how to sever that and how to let it go and how to energetically, vibrationally release ourselves from relationships, even when the man is no longer in the life. Sometimes women will hold on to it vibrationally, and that can affect the life. Okay.
Girl, we hold on to that. And then we tell our girlfriends, and then they chime in, and then it's this whole ball of energy, even though you've left. And it's so funny. It happened this week, and we were talking about a past someone in our lives, and we all just piled on. And you're thinking, what are we doing? It doesn't even matter. You're so far out of that relationship.
Yes. And so really teaching women not to feed that. And sometimes we can get in these echo chambers, and just like you said, everybody's like, yeah, girl, he should have, Yeah, you don't want to be in those environments. You want to be in an environment or have friendships where where your friend says, hey, well, what was the role that you played in this disharmonious relationship? What within you attracted this dysfunctional man into your life? What changes do you need to make so that you don't attract that same caliber of man into your life? You want people in your life that's going to challenge, because when we have relationships that are not harmonious to what we want, what we need to do is look in the mirror and say, what within me attracted that relationship? And then we want to go and heal that thing, not point at the man to say he was this, he was that, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. Well, what in you attracted him into your life?
I just saw like a TikTok about you are a mirror of your relationships.
Absolutely.
And so I did a little journal sesh on that because I'm single. And so I was like, oh my gosh, is that me? Like, am I mirroring what I want or what I am?
Absolutely. One of the ways that I attracted my current husband, who is phenomenal. I didn't even know me and like my husband existed. Huh?
Give me all the tips, the exact prayer word for word.
Let me tell you exactly what I did. I actually started dating after my divorce. I married my first husband right after college, and then we were together for 14 years, had 4 children. And when we divorced, I was in my late 30s, and I didn't know how to date. So I had to go online and say, how do you date in your 30s? And so I actually started doing some online dating. And I started to find that the few people I were connecting with, they were very similar. They were not emotionally available. They had unfinished things in their life. And so I looked at myself and I said, okay, Felicia, you are attracting the same type of man. I don't want to say better, but they're in better positions than your ex-husband was. So you leveled up a little bit, girl. But they are emotionally unavailable. They are unsure in certain areas of their life, and they have multiple things going on. What within me is attracting that type of man? And when I asked that question, this is the truth. The truth was, Felicia, you really haven't healed from your marriage. You really have just divorced and you've decided to move on, but you really haven't healed the wounds. Therefore, you feel unfinished. You feel some things unresolved within your heart. Therefore, you're attracting men that are unresolved within theirs and have unfinished business within theirs. But consciously, you desire a stable man, but you are unstable. So I did. I broke it off. I was in a 6-month relationship with someone, and we probably would have ended up marrying. But I broke it off. I did. I broke it off with him because I said, I am undone. I really haven't gone within and did that deep work. So what I did was I did a little ceremony. And I don't even know if this is what this talk is supposed to be about, but Mark left, you asked the question, I'm going to answer it because somebody may benefit from it. Okay.
100%.
So when I had that realization, I kind of made somewhat of a ceremony, and I took this beautiful detox bath. I cleaned my bedroom. I cleaned my bathroom. I brought fresh flowers. I took a long detox bath with essential oils and all of that. I got in the bed. I got a pen and paper, and I wrote down everything I desired in a man and in a relationship. And I had 20 things. And when I got finished writing it, I was like, he probably sounded like one of the men in your book, because I was like, I don't, this type of man do not even exist. Like, I ain't never met nobody like this, okay? And then I flipped that page over. And then I wrote on the page what I bring into a relationship.
Ooh, I like that.
I wrote down what qualities I bring. I brought, like, I'm passionate, I'm loving. I wrote down the things I bring. Then I flipped the page back over and I asked myself this question: who do I have to become? What other ways and who do I have to become in order to attract this caliber of man?
Oh, that's a good exercise.
And then I said, okay, that's what I'm gonna work on. And that's what I started working on. And that's when I connected with my current husband. That's when I ended up going off to this amazing women's retreat and breathwork journey, changed my life. And now I'm in an amazing relationship, living a life that I don't even think I would have imagined in my years past. I don't even, I was at the walk. We live by a lake, and I was literally out walking today. And I was just thinking, God, I am so grateful for the life I live. Like, it's 10 o'clock. I work for myself. I have my own practice. I am walking, seeing this beautiful scenery. There's no rush to get home. I can do what I want. I set my own schedule. I'm helping and changing people's lives through the work that I'm doing. I can do it on my own time. I make good money from it. I have an amazing husband. My children are doing well. And I could just go on and on to the break of dawn. Okay. And so doing those type of exercises, really applying the practices that I give other people to do, I do them myself. And that's why I live the life that I'm currently living right now, because I do the work. And that's what we want to do. We want to do the work and not just, walk the talk.
I want y'all to keep the conversation going, and all along those lines, as you can see, I moved to a different location. So I'm going to bring in my other guest, Gregory, and see what he's got going on in his life. But keep the conversation going and all along those lines, because definitely sometimes things just happen that you aren't expecting, and all along those lines. So you can tell I've moved to a KFC because they had some power outage stuff going on at my place of work and everything like that. So while they're trying to fix that out, I moved to a new location. So all along those lines, but I know y'all will keep the conversation going, because that's what happens at a dinner party. You never know who's going to be, including mysterious guests like power issues and everything like that. So I'm glad that y'all are able to keep things running and keep the conversation going, and hopefully they'll have things up and running shortly and everything along those lines. But definitely want to let y'all know what was going on and what's happening. I'm going to try to bring Greg in as well, so that y'all can continue the conversation and learn from each other, because that's what the online dinner party is all about. Since maybe that's what just the premonition that I'm supposed to go get dinner. So maybe that's what it is. I got to order dinner from KFC. So maybe that's what it was a premonition that I hadn't eaten yet today and everything like that. So that might have been what it was, with the folks going like, hey, you need to have dinner and you haven't had dinner yet. So we're going to kick everybody out so that you be able to voice yourself to have dinner and all along those lines. So maybe y'all can share some stories of unexpected encounters that you've had in your own lives, in your own jobs, and in your own podcast as well. So I'll leave you with that, DG. So what are some unexpected things that have happened in your life and everything like that you were not
expecting and all along those lines?
I think, is he on? Is the other person? Here he is.
There he is. He made it.
Leo.
Yep.
I have a question, Felicia. How long did that take you to transform? You had said you had done your 2 list, and then after that, you started working on yourself. How long did that take you? Because I think women always want to know the journey part.
Before, how long did it take me before?
You had done the ceremonial bath and had done the 2 lists, and you said, I made a list of what do I need to become in order to attract that. And then you started working on yourself. How long did that take?
I met my husband, my current husband, 7 months after that. And we became friends. And we actually worked together on a podcast for 5 months before he even asked me out on a date. What took you so long? And then he asked to marry me exactly to the day that we met a year later. And so it took me 7 months to do that work before him and I met.
Amazing.
It was work. It was a lot of going within. It was painful. I experienced loneliness. I experienced, am I doing this right? And I experienced wanting to go back to my old ways. I was faced with a lot of things that I hadn't healed within myself. I did emotion co-work. I did energy work. I did Reiki work. I did multiple things to help clear energy from my body. I did journaling. I did meditation. And so I did multiple things. And I was kind of just doing it grassroots. There wasn't a plan. There wasn't a protocol. I just kind of trusted myself to guide me on what was needed. And that's what helped to bring that healing.
I love that. And I feel like it's so many tools in the toolbox that we can use that people don't know about. You're right. It takes someone to guide you through it all.
Yeah. And I really didn't have the guidance. I really had the internal guidance, though, because our soul knows what to do. And when we trust that intuition and that inner guidance, it will lead us. But sometimes so many of us don't trust ourselves, and we're looking for someone outside of ourselves to give us the guidance, the direction. But when we start to develop relationship with ourselves, then we can start to trust the ideas that fall. When we start to act on them, then we can start to experience more intuition, more inner guidance when we act on the things that are dropping in our spirit. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree.
Yeah. Good stuff. You asked
no doubt about that and everything. That was doing a great job of pivoting. I appreciate that and everything along those.
You asked about unexpected things. I think your last question is about unexpected things. And, what was the question, Gigi?
Hold on a second, and I'll be right back.
We can keep it going.
I can't hear.
Unexpected experiences.
Yeah, Mark asked the question, has anything unexpected happened in our life? And I think me and you are very similar. We both have a divorce. We both have children to raise. Mm-hmm. It's like reinvention, having to reinvent. You had a career pivot. I had a career pivot. And I think it's really common for women. We get to a point where, for me in particular, there was a blueprint, right? If you go to college and you get a degree and then you go in corporate America, you will have a safe and steady employment. Everything will be great. Retire when you're 65. Mm-hmm. And you follow that and it's day in and day out. And then at some point you think like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm good at it. It's amazing money, but I feel like my soul could be dying on the inside.
Yeah.
And in fact, I had actually worked with a colleague who passed away on the job. Mm-hmm. And he had all these plans for like, he was a few years from retirement, him and his wife were going to travel here and there and there, and there were grandkids, and it never came. He literally was in a golf tournament, came home, jogged alongside his wife, and had passed away within minutes.
Oh my goodness.
It was very tragic, really hard for all of us.
Yeah.
Very good man. But it's such a lesson that we all think, oh, tomorrow is guaranteed. And you never know. It's not.
Yeah.
But we live like it is. We live like, oh, I got tomorrow and I got tomorrow, like that. We always just think like life will always just have another tomorrow until it doesn't.
Yeah, that's true. But you are right. It seems like we do have this blueprint that's been given. And then when a lot of times we find that blueprint, we follow that blueprint rather, we can find ourselves left wanting for so much. And a huge part of that is because our soul is here for life experiences. And when we get stuck to a particular blueprint, the soul is going to speak up. And that's when that discomfort comes. That's when the questioning comes. That when we start to explore outside of the blueprint and start to find our own way to finding some sense of fulfillment in life. And so it's really great that you broke out of the blueprint and the path that was set to say, hey, I'm going to start doing what's in my heart and my soul to do and start writing these novels, and letting the soul express itself. I think is beautiful. I think it's what we're all here to do,
100%. I have a really dear friend. We were just talking about this yesterday. Mm-hmm. She's driving into work. She's very accomplished. She's a equity partner in her law firm. So, she's making almost $1 million a year. So the money is amazing. But she said, for what?
Yeah.
For what?
Yeah.
She's always one lawsuit away, one quota away, one this way. And she says, what am I doing all this for? And she took 2 weeks and she went to UK. So they did like London, all of England, into the Cotswolds and Scotland. And so they're there 2 weeks. She said, they just live different over here. The priority is not hustle culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, what am I doing this for? So kind of an awakening now.
Yeah.
And, you had yours, I've had mine. And then there's a real discomfort like, okay, what are we going to do about this?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think a huge part of it is happening, and it's not just happening to women, it's happening to people across the board, because in our culture, in our society here in the States, that hustle culture is a part of our life. The capitalism is the part and it's integrated within us. But now I think the earth itself, consciousness itself, is seeking to wake us up to more of who we are, what we are, and why we are. And in that pursuit of that, we're starting to open our eyes to say, hey, tomorrow isn't promised. What am I doing this for? We're being compelled to ask those questions that we weren't asking before. We were just blindly following the suit. Like I did the same thing. I went to, I graduated from high school. I went to college. I got a corporate job. I got married. I started having kids. Like I followed the blueprint as well until I wasn't jiving with it anymore. You know what I mean? It totally wasn't bringing about the fulfillment that I desired in life. And I think that's happening to many of us across the board. And it's imperative that we pause and not just ask the question, but we sit and we wait for an answer. What am I doing this for?
Mm-hmm.
What do I truly want to do?
Hey, just really quick.
Yeah, if money.
Really quickly, along those same lines, I've been listening off and on and everything. But I've been listening off and on just really quickly while trying to deal with the kind of stuff that we're dealing with at my cultural center and everything like that. But just really quickly, and this kind of ties into what you were saying, Felicia, how much, because part of the reason that Nick and Kim created this network, PODTV, is because they feel that there's a lot of things that aren't taught in school, like fiscal literacy and like business plans and stuff like that. So I was just wondering, at what point did you realize that those were skill sets that you needed, and how did you go about developing those skill sets? Because I know that they are sometimes frustrated at what is, and I know Gigi's in the media as well, that what is not covered in the media, not so much what it is covered, because we know that everybody loves their big brother. I'd be lying if I said that later on this evening I won't look to see who gets on the hot seat in Big Brother and all along those lines and everything. But we all have our weaknesses in that sense. But a lot of times there's the big news stories, whether it's Ukraine or Israel or a number of other things. But the skill sets that you need to survive, whether it's a business, whether it's a corporation, whether it's a private entity or whatever, that aren't taught as much. I'm fascinated, and I've been doing this now with PODTV for about 4 or 5 years, at how many people don't have a business plan or a mission statement. So I was just wondering, at what point were those things that you realized that you needed, and how did you go about getting those things in your own life? Because I'm oftentimes fascinated that people don't have those skill sets.
I didn't get them till I was
Either
way
one of you.
grown. And in the middle of needing to create them, of course I didn't get this education while in school, and I think that is very much missing from the school system, is teaching about money management, time management, work ethic, to learn those things. Those things are not taught in our school system. And so that was one of the reasons too, we pulled our kids out of school. And my daughters just graduated from high school, and they were homeschooled for 5 years. And it happened when COVID hit, because I don't know if you had kids in school, Gigi, when COVID hit, but school went to shit. It was horrible.
We were the teachers. We became teachers.
Yes. And I was like, I can't do it. And so we ended up finding a homeschool program for them. And we had to go through 3 of them before we got to the one that was wonderful. And they were in homeschool for 5 years, and they both graduated. One of my sons is in TCC right now, and 2 of them just graduated. So I'm finally free to graduate from high school. But one of the things we were able to teach them was more about time management, more about learning who they are, and learning more about why they are the way they are. What are some things you need to develop, what you need to change? And so we as parents have to do that ourselves, because they're not learning that in the school system, and that is not going to change as of yet. Right now is not going to change, where they're teaching them work ethic, time management, and self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Those things, most adults are not learning that stuff. Like I didn't learn that stuff until I was grown, so it's great can instill those things into our children.
But Gigi, and Gigi, along those same lines, I know that one of the big things, and I'm still single at 63 and all along those lines and everything like that, have had long-term relationships, but haven't ever jumped the broom and everything in that space. But I know that when you talk to people that are in relationships, and I've got friends that are in all kinds of relationships and everything, one of the biggest things that is a downfall in relationships, whether it's a job relationship or whether it's a romantic relationship or whatever, is communication. And I don't know that we are effectively teaching communication in school either, because I know that when I was going to grade school way back in the ice ages and everything, you definitely did a lot of communication and learned about how to navigate what was going on in your interpersonal communication and everything like that. But I don't know that our kids are learning it as effectively, because they're so buried in their devices. I mean, I'm on the phone now because of what's going on at the center and everything, but a lot of times they're buried in their devices and everything like that. So I just want to, what is y'all's take on that? This whole notion of communication, is it something that we are teaching our kids enough about, and is that hurting us in our business relationships? Because I mean, even in your books, I'm sure communication is a major part of some of the better protagonists and antagonists in those stories. I'm thinking the antagonists don't know how to talk and everything along those lines, but I could be wrong, Gigi. But what is your take on the notion of communication?
No, that is so funny you say that, because when you asked your first question a moment ago, I was thinking communications is what we don't teach in school. And it's so critical, right? It was when we were raised, you had to look people in the eye, stick your hand out, and have proper manners, right? So we've lost that because of screens. And I think it does start at home. So if you're trying to raise leaders and not just raising children that will follow the norm, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
And I think also it comes with confidence. You have to build communication skills, right? It's when we had to do public speaking in school, you had to write your own speech, or you'd have a debate club. And those things they don't have in the curriculum anymore. But when you had to stand in front of your peers and communicate your thoughts and ideas, that was brutal. But what it did is it kept teaching you. Every time you stood up there, it was less scary. You had to be more prepared, and your thoughts had to be more communicative and more in order. And so with children, I think that's not happening. I think a lot of times, and my kids, we live in our city, Houston. We don't have that in the inner city programs. There's private schools. We don't have that in the private schools either. But I think we need to teach leadership and communication as part of that. And it's being your own moral compass. It's you taking responsibility, not blaming others. The buck stops here. It's all those little catchphrases. And you learn how to communicate through each and every interaction. And that's, like you said, across all relationships, business, personal, friendships, romance. We know that not having good communication kills any relationship, whether it be a romantic one or a friendship.
Absolutely. That's
Yep.
excellent.
That makes a lot of sense. What's your take on that, Felicia? Because like I said, a lot of times people, and I was homeschooled briefly myself and everything, because I remember I was a little bit of a rebel when I was in school, and I remember that I did not want to get the ear exam like the folks over there dabbling in my ear, so I protested, and if I remember correctly, I think my parents backed me up, and they let me get pulled out of school. So I want to say it was fifth grade when we moved to Warrenton, so I went back into public school in the fifth grade. So it was probably third and fourth grade that I was homeschooled, and Mom taught me because she was a guidance counselor by trade and everything like that. So she knew a little bit about the school system and how to teach and come up with a curriculum and everything like that. And then I went back into the school system, and then I went to Marquette, which is a very good liberal arts school. So I've had a variety of educations, including being self-taught in some things. So I think a lot of times we don't give people enough credit for being self-taught, and particularly in the entrepreneurial field and everything like that. Because I consider both of you ladies entrepreneurs, and I'm wondering how much of the entrepreneurial skills did you feel that you would have gotten if you had gone to business school, and how much do you feel was better because you probably self-taught yourselves?
I mean, my bachelor's degree is in business management. And I worked in human resources and had great jobs in the business field, but it takes a different skill set to be an entrepreneur and work on your own, which I have been doing for, I guess about 8 years now, 7 to 8 years, whereas I've just been working on my own. And so it does take a different skill set. And sometimes, I'll be honest, I wouldn't mind going back and working for someone else because of what is required to work for yourself. Like I'm only accountable to me. Do you understand what it's different when you're accountable to someone else? So I'm only accountable to me. I make it move and groove, or I don't. You understand what I'm saying? So it does require vision. It does require purpose. It does require drive. It does require determination. And a lot of some of those things, because they're not taught in school settings, they do have to be developed. And sometimes it has to come from a sense of calling. Like I really feel called and driven on a deep spiritual level to do the work that I'm doing. If I didn't, then I might have given it up because sometimes it's hard working with people that are dealing with so much trauma and tragedy and really trying to help them navigate through that and to be present with them and to support them with that. Chuck, and sometimes I mean, like, I don't know what you need to do. I'm done, but when you feel like you're called to do this type of work, and you've cultivated that commitment to it and created that, it keeps you in the flow of doing the entrepreneurial work, because it's not just for the money. It's definitely for the vision. It's for the fulfillment. It's for the feeling like you're making a difference.
Hey, Gigi, along those same lines, that makes sense and everything. Hey, Gigi, along those same lines and everything along those lines, I've got some friends that have been in corporate America like you, and they've gotten out of corporate America. And unlike what Felicia's saying, you couldn't pay them to go back to corporate America if you wanted to and everything like that. So I just wondered, is there any way if you would go back?
Let me
Gigi,
say,
would you go back into corporate America?
I don't want to go back to corporate. I just have my backsliding moments where you get paid consistently in, like when you're working for corporate. When you're working by yourself, one payment 1 week may be totally different than the week before. So that's when I backslide to be like, oh, I would want to go back to the falsehood of security and corporate.
Well, to tell you a little bit about my story, I was working during COVID because the government had come up with all these new programs, right? We had the stimulus, we had the PPP. So during COVID, while the kids were at home, while we were trying to do Zoom learning, I was working 80 hours a week. That was miserable. Then we go back into the office because I'm in Texas and we were not in lockdown very long. I think like 2 months, we're all back in the office. But the thing about it is everything comes at a cost, right? So I would drop off my children at 7:30 in the morning for school, and then I would pick them up at 6 o'clock at night because they had to go into extended care because of my commuting, my work hours, etc. And so that doesn't lend itself to them to grow, them to chase their own dreams, to participate in any extracurricular activities or sports. So yes, you can make a lot of money and you can have that steady paycheck, but it comes at a cost. And I don't know if that cost is worth your whole family. And we're lucky. Felicia and I are very lucky that we've been able to leave that world, leave the steady paycheck, and make it an entrepreneurship. It's very, very difficult. And that's why so many people do have to do full-time and a side hustle until their side hustle takes off. And so when she's talking about that little backslide moment, I think we all have fear, right? Fear, did I make a mistake? Was I being selfish? Should I go back to the steady security of the job and not chase my dreams? What am I teaching my kids? That it's okay to give up? Or do they see it as it's okay to chase my dreams and go on and try new things? Yeah. So it's a slippery slope, but you have to do what's right for you and your family and that income if you can get away with not having a steady paycheck.
Yeah, I most definitely would not be able to do what I'm doing without my husband. When I was a single mom too, listening to what you just said, I'm like, that was my life. You drop them off early. They're an after school care program. You pick them up late. Sometimes it'll be dark when you pick them up. You go home. I was
just going to say, Felicia, they go to school in the dark. You pick them up in the dark.
Absolutely. So I used to have that life for sure when they were younger, but it wasn't until really that I got married that my husband was like, hey, I can handle things. Do what you want to do, have the experience. So if I hadn't had that support, I wouldn't have been able to break away from my job in the way that I was able to, you know what I mean? Without that support as it relates to my experience. I had to have that financial support that he was providing to do what I do now. And so I'm so grateful for that, because some households do require that two people are bringing something in just because of, just the cost of living. And so I'm so grateful for that freedom to do that.
Well, and I think too, it has conversations that we wouldn't normally have. Like my children had no idea the state of the union of the home, right? It was just whatever. They knew that they had to go to school. We had to be dropped off. They had to be picked up. There was unless there was a stay-at-home mom that could pick them up early, they knew they're going to be like the last child picked up. And that's such a difficult and lonely experience, but we weren't having some of the conversations that we do now. They know exactly where we stand as a household budget. They know what we can and cannot afford. They have, we talk about financial literacy a couple conversations ago. They are very well aware. They have financial literacy. They understand, we've talked about trading. I've taken them over to Charles Schwab to get some financial literacy training. There's a lot of free resources out there, but we didn't have the time because you're sitting in your chair in your designated building in that part of town, and there is no freedom. So it's always trade-offs. I feel like the conversations I have now are richer, deeper. They're more expansive. They cover different topics. Yes. And I feel like we're closer as a family unit.
That is awesome. Awesome. I am so proud of my children. Sometimes the conversations that they have, and they have with us, or they have amongst themselves, is so
with their
rich.
Friends. With their friends.
They are so close. Yeah. I think about like, wow, if I would have had this type of understanding at their age that they have now, because we were able to bring them home, we were able to help them to learn how to communicate, to develop greater confidence, to speak their mind, to share their thoughts, to ask uncomfortable questions, and things like that, to listen to how they develop in their relationships and their intelligence level in their interactions. We never would have been able to provide that for them if we weren't able to create the space in our home to do it, and to teach them and to show them different things. If they were going to school when it was dark and getting out when they were dark, they never would have learned a lot of those concepts we were able to provide them with to shape their life as it is now. So
100%. They're tired, you're tired, right? There's no time left because You're picking them up. You're racing home. Did I thaw something out for dinner? Do I put something in the crock pot? What can I make? You don't want to eat out of a bag through a drive-through. And then by the time you finish dinner, you got to clean up. It's everybody getting in,
Yes.
the bath, showers, homework, and then it's bed. And it's just a rat on a wheel lifestyle. And I don't want it to sound ungrateful because it did provide a really nice lifestyle for me and the children. However, it comes at a cost.
It does.
And so those conversations had to wait to the weekend. And by then, everybody just wants to disconnect.
Mhm.
They want to rejuvenate, or however they need to fill their well up, because it starts again Monday morning.
Yeah. And that brings in the point that, it does come at a cost. And so many people, I think, in life, they just want it all. But you can't have it all. You cannot have
it all.
We want it all, but you can't. You can't, and it's not going to happen. Like, we can't have the job that's paying a lot and we get to travel with it, but at the same time have a stable, loving, connected family, and have a wonderful, harmonious relationship. We can't have it all. There has to be give and take. There has to be greater balance, and having it all is not realistic. And I do think that's a downfall in many relationships that people are trying to create today, and they're not experiencing what they want to create because it doesn't exist. We cannot have it all. And I'm a believer in that.
Well, and I think that's a hard pill to swallow, right? Because everything coming at us generationally is like, we had the feminist movement, which me and you have directly benefited from. And our careers were built on the backs of the ladies that went before us. My mom could only be a secretary, teacher, or a nurse. Well, we have much more choices. Our children, then you go another generation out, they have a lot more choices.
Yeah.
And we're thankful for all that. And so that's why we think, oh, well, we can have it all, because you do see on social media, oh, she has it all and he has it all and they have it all together. And so you think, I want that too. But I think the mistake is we're putting value on things that are not so valuable. It's not about the designer handbag, and it's not being a nomadic life. It's about things that you had said earlier, fill your soul. It's your soul speaking to you. And like I was talking to my friend, she feels, even though she's making $1 million a year, my soul is literally dying, sitting in this chair, waiting for the next, case to come up.
Yes. Listen, in the work that I've been doing, I've worked at 2 holistic centers, and then I have my own practice too. So I've seen thousands of clients. And I remember when I first started doing this work, I had that imposter syndrome, like, who am I to be giving people guidance on what they need to do? Like, look at my life, and this is, after my divorce and just right in that time, I'm like, who am I to do this?
The messy middle, I like to call it, where it's the messy middle.
Let me tell you, I got over that real quick when I started seeing people that most of the people I see, because we don't take insurance in the holistic spaces that I work, and I don't take insurance. So most people I see they doing pretty good financially. Okay. I have seen some very wealthy people, okay, in my practice. What I found out in the beginning, that it does not matter what your income is. It does not matter your nationality. It doesn't matter where you went to school. Everybody experienced trauma. Everybody has mess. Everybody has baggage. And let me tell you, it's some messy stuff out in everybody's life. And when I started to see that, it just totally released me from this concept that who am I to show up and share with anyone suggestions on what they need to do to better their life, because it doesn't matter. We're all going through these difficult things in life. And so it doesn't matter. We're all experiencing those traumatic things, and we cannot have it all. And it may be a hard pill to swallow, but as soon as you swallow that pill, just like medicine, you're going to start to feel better, because you're going to start to then see through, what's true. And reality, there has to be some give and take, and we need to learn to be satisfied, to be content with the choices that we're making in life. And we can't have everything all at one time. It doesn't exist. It's an illusion. It's not true. So
I think too, it's challenging. And I think that's why we're always seeking information. I started my own podcast, just the Gigi Meyer podcast, about reinvention at any age.
Oh, I love
And I really
that.
thank you. So it's rewrite, reclaim, reinvent is my tagline, because I feel like we have people that are like, oh, I'm too young to do 1, 2, 3. We have now people that, oh, I'm too old to do X, Y, Z. When is the right time? It's never going to be the right time. We always move up the line. When I find the one, when I get married, when we get the house, when we have kids, when I retire, we're always moving the line of contentment and satisfaction. And I tried through my podcast to be like, look, the time is now. You can make little micro changes that do add up. Yeah. You can decide, if you have to stay in corporate America, there's small changes that you can make to like keep your sanity. And it's not all just necessarily a side hustle. Some people really do enjoy their career.
Yeah.
But they have stress. And you said there is tension and there is trauma. And I think one of the biggest tragedies that we do is we compare Gigi's trauma to Felicia's trauma. And if hers is so big and egregious, then I'm not worthy. I shouldn't feel this way. And I feel like that just puts us on an anxiety spiral. Yeah. Because your trauma is as real to you as my trauma is as real to me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point.
But yet we play that comparison game like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way because she was in, a traumatic situation, or she was a domestic abuse survivor and I'm not. But it's not true. We shouldn't compare. Like, everybody has so much to deal with. And it was such a fast-paced life. Yeah. And I think that you're right. If we can compartmentalize and you come to the realization that maybe we can't have it all, but what is good enough to be happy? What is good enough to be just content?
Yeah. Yeah.
What advice would you give for people that are wanting to get into a good relationship and everything like that? Because I mentioned earlier that I think a lot of people are not good at communications, and they say that that's the number one reason that we have the high divorce rate that we have and everything like that. And I know a lot of people love the romance novels. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I like to pick up romance novels as well and everything like that. So that's the guy I like romance novels, because I even remember reading some of the Hawking romances back in the day and everything like that. So what advice would you give to folks, both in terms of what they can get from the romance novels, but also what is making for effective communications in the relationship space?
Well, I think honestly, both sides have to figure out what you want. And so, the longest relationship we have is with ourselves, but that's actually the relationship we prioritize the least. And so I think it's hard to ask for what you really want. We make compromises, right? We compromise maybe in the relationship a mother has with her child. We make compromises, maybe the dad is no longer around, or someone walked out, or there's a divorce and you come from a broken family and you don't see one parent enough. In that moment, you're raised to like, well, my voice isn't really heard. I'm not seen. I just need to, shuffle to this house for 2.5 days or shuffle over here. So it's almost like we stop figuring out what we need. When you're really little, you communicate your needs very well. But through learned behavior, society, situations, we get quieter and quieter. And until sometimes you're like, it's just easier if I go with the flow, if I don't create waves, if I don't stand up, speak out, etc. And I think that's where it's hard if you don't know who you are and then you're trying to join a relationship and you don't know where to stand. You'll get run over. You will compromise. You will ignore the red flags. You'll make excuses. Oh, well, he only hit me that one time. He'll never do it again. And so I think it's peeling back all that, auditing who you were way back in the day when you used to stand for yourself and you used to know who you were. Going back and then devising the list you need.
Yeah, speaking of red flags and everything along those lines, one of the things I've been fascinated by entrepreneurs, and I just wanted y'all's thoughts, is a lot of people want you to live their dream. So what do you do? How do you deal with that and everything? Because I know a lot of people, I've even been in those environments where they want you to join their committee or join their organization, but they want you to live their dream, not necessarily live your own dreams. Because I've had a number of friends that have approached me and have been like, there's a simple 2 words that is called NO and everything like that. But I think sometimes we have a hard time saying no, and we sometimes will buy into people's dreams, even though it might not be our own goal and everything. And I'm not saying you can't support your friends and family members and alliances and everything like that, but I do sometimes think that we as a people get caught up in wanting to support and do so much supporting that we don't think about supporting ourselves. So I just wanted your thoughts on that, because I do know a lot of people that will get into somebody else's dream and ambitions, whether it fits into their dream or ambition or not.
Gigi, I'm gonna let you take this one because that is not my struggle. I can say no in a hot minute. I had to learn how to do that years ago, but that is not my struggle at all.
Well, because I think two things: people pleasing and conflict. We
Yeah,
inherently want to make people happy. I believe that the world is kind. And that is a
right.
difficult conversation to have. And especially when it's those close to you, or they say, oh, you know what you should do. And they just like kind of drowned you in all this advice about how you should run your life, or how you
Right.
should join their organization or their run club or their book club, or you name it, right? And so
Right.
we are such a people pleasing society. I think it's hard for us to say no and why. And we have it kind of creates tension and conflict around that moment. And I don't know too many people that are like, yes, I love conflict. I seek it out. Maybe those that like road rage. But I feel generally we want to be cognizant of the feelings of those in our circle of influence and around us, and to have difficult conversations we all avoid. We don't want to do it. It's uncomfortable. There may be repercussions, there may be fallout. And so I think that's why it's really challenging. But again, if you're a good communicator, you can separate the emotional side from the logical side. Logically, no, I'm not a runner. I don't want to go out in the Houston heat and run in 100-degree weather. So, okay, that's the logical side. The emotional side is, what are they wanting from me? If they want me to participate in their world, is it because they want closeness with me? Or is it about them? They don't want to go to run club by themselves. They're insecure. They look like they have no friends. So I think when you get down to the emotional side and
Yeah.
where all that energy is coming from, it can create logical steps forward. But you have to have a clear mind in order to separate that ask or that question, or where's all that coming from. You have to have a clear mind to separate it into two different paths and examine both sides equally.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
totally
that
agree
makes a
with
lot of
that. You gotta be self-aware and to heal much of those things that can cause those triggers. We get so triggered when people ask us certain things, or we experience conflict, or we experience defensiveness, or whatever the case may be. We react instead of respond. And so taking that pause, like you said, Gigi, where we are assessing, we're not hyped up off of our emotions. We can step back and say, hey, do I really want to do what they're asking me to do? Is it beneficial to me? Is this fulfilling in some way? And be able to separate them and then respond, instead of react, is a great place to start. And it starts with
yeah, that makes
self-awareness.
Yeah, it's that self-awareness, and a lot of times we're not self-aware. Because I know even in relationships, they say that we have to be healed ourselves. Because that's one of the things I know that in talking to relationship coaches, they say that you have to be healed yourself before you can bring somebody else into relationships. And I know a lot of times people have baggage, and they know they've got baggage, but they don't want to acknowledge their baggage. So I just wondered, how did both of y'all deal with that? Because I know that, Felicia, you're in a relationship. It sounds like you might be in one too, but it's not a marriage one and everything. But how do you deal with that whole notion? Because I know I've been in relationships where I knew that people had baggage, and sometimes it was a matter of like you wanting them to set that baggage aside and everything. Because sometimes people bring the baggage in, know they've got the baggage, and also use the baggage almost as a shield and everything. Because I know some people that have had baggage and have used that baggage as a way to, I won't say maneuver, but to manipulate what they wanted in the relationship, because they knew that what had happened in the last relationship and they didn't want it to happen again. So sometimes they brought that into the new relationship, and they became like the flip. So like if they were bullied, then they became the bully.
Yeah. So I do have a belief that we need to heal to a degree before we get into a relationship, because we don't want to look for someone else to heal us or to complete us. We just want people to complement us. And so you do want to heal to a certain degree, but then some people use that as an excuse to keep them out of relationship. I'm still working on myself, and they've been working on themselves for 24 years, just healing on the journey, because we cannot fully, really get to the next level of healing until we get into a relationship, because that's when you can test whether or not you've healed some of those wounds, that you've really worked on some things. Getting into a relationship is going to take you to the next level of healing, because now you have interaction. Now you have a space where you have to be more vulnerable. You can assess whether or not you're responding versus reacting. You can really experience greater healing. But I do think that people, need to go on a healing journey before they get into these relationships, because we don't attract what we want, we attract who we are. And so we do need to heal our heart space so that we are attracting healthy relationships into our life.
Yeah.
And if people are being manipulative, if they are doing those low vibrational things, then there's still some greater level of healing that needs to happen within their life. If they're doing these low vibrational, like, petty things, then we need to assess. Then it's our responsibility to assess, okay, do I want to be in this type of relationship, and be able to cut things off when we see them going into a direction that we won't tolerate. And that comes with knowing what you want. I think you mentioned that, Gigi, earlier, the importance of knowing what you want and what you're willing to tolerate and what you're willing to not. And so when people show you who they are, believe them when they show you who they are. And because you already know what you want, you already know what your non-negotiables are. When those things happen, you know to step out, to step away, and go to the next experience, create the next experience. And then to glean from our relationship.
That makes a lot of sense.
We learning. People need to assess their relationships. What did this relationship teach me? What did I learn from? What did I learn about myself? Has it shown me that I've healed? Has it shown me that there's some areas where I haven't healed? We take that information, and then we level up from that information. And then the more we do that, then we can get to the point where we can vibrationally attract the caliber of mate that we desire in our life, because we are gleaming from and educating ourselves on the relationships we're attracting into our lives. Hope that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things I've been fascinated by recently is I've seen a lot of young women that have told me that they are frustrated by their peers and everything like that, because they say that their peers are not as developed as they would like them to be and everything. So I've had a number of young women that told me that they are deliberately going after older guys, in some cases much older guys and everything like that. So I just wondered, what is y'all's take on that? Because I have seen a lot of young women, I'd say like in their 30s and maybe even some in their 40s and late 20s, that have been frustrated because they don't feel that the young men that are their peer group are actually serious about relationships and everything like that. So they are now targeting or going after folks that are older and everything like that, because they think that they maybe can learn something from them, or also there's that whole mythology and everything, but they're also just not frustrated by the folks that are in their age range that aren't serious about the relationship. So I just wanted y'all's take on that.
Absolutely. Women generally, women, baby girls do develop intellectually faster than boys. It's natural. So women who are in their 20s and 30s, yeah, most women want a man who's financially stable, who's emotionally intelligent, mature. Men in their 20s early, they haven't fully developed that yet. And a lot of women are looking for men to a degree to be providers, to be stable, to be all that. They're not going to be that at that early age. So I do agree. I think it's good for women to date men that are older and that are more mature. Now, I remarried in my 40s. My husband and I were the same age, but he's had a lifetime, he was in his 40s. And so we were able to, he's already mature. He's already developed. He's already created a career. He already has things going, but we're later in life. And so I do think it's good for women to date a little bit older, if they're really looking to connect to someone, to have a long-term relationship, to at least be open to it. That's my thought.
Yeah, that makes sense and everything. Just really quickly, and this phone may die and everything along those lines. One of the things, and if I die on this phone and everything, just know that I'll end the show afterwards and everything. But I always ask all my guests I always ask them two questions. One is how they can be contacted and their message of positivity. So if the phone dies, definitely share that and everything along those lines. So I'll try to stick around as long as I can. But just remember that question if you do see me pop off, which is how they can contact you, and also the message of positivity. The show usually runs about an hour and a half to about an hour and 45 minutes. So if you have to bounce off because I bounce off, don't worry. It's still a good dinner party, and I will be inviting y'all back again. It's just life got in the way, because life did what life does. Life. There's that whole expression about life, and then all along those lines and everything like that. So just keep that in mind if I bounce off.
Well, Gigi Meyer,
What's your take on that, Gigi? What's the notion? Go ahead.
Oh, on my message of positivity, or where I can be found, or older women, younger men.
About the older women, younger men,
Or what I say,
or vice versa, older men, younger women.
So I have someone really, really close to me, and I feel like she's an old soul, and so she's naturally attracted to men that are older. And so I've asked her many times, why is that? And she said, we're not in the same place in life. She's been a child of divorce, and she's been through some natural disasters, and just there's a lot of life unfair things that have happened to her. And she said, I feel like I'm the oldest person I know. I'm the oldest person in college, I'm the oldest 22-year-old I know. And so when I'm talking to other 22-year-old guys that are in college, they're talking about ragers, getting drunk, Greek life, baseball, football, etc. She said, I'm so far beyond that intellectually, mentally. She says, I'm prepared for the next. I want to have deeper conversations. I want to learn about culture, music. I want to talk about where we travel, where they've been to, their experiences. And so I think that's why you do see a lot of younger women date older men, or even marry them. I mean, I think Trump's press secretary, an example of that, right? He's way older than her. But right. I think because they're looking for the experiences that they either want themselves, or maybe they've had some, like Felicia had mentioned, trauma comes packaged in many different forms. Mm-hmm. And if you've been through a traumatic event, the person close to me, she got married at 17. Her husband was a Marine. He got injured in the Middle East. And she said, after they got divorced and he had massive PTSD, she goes, I'm the oldest 22-year-old enrolled at my college. And how do I relate to them? And you don't, right? Your life is so much, add 10 years to her life experience because her age hasn't caught up yet. And so I don't feel like on my website, I talk about age is just a number. I truly believe that, whether it's, older women dating younger men just because they want the fun and the flirting and to feel wanted and sexy, or if it's vice versa, it's a younger women wanting the experience, the intelligence, the enrichment, the culture of older men. I think it really is who you're most equally yoked to.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can definitely agree with that, and definitely can see that, because I've definitely seen folks that are trying to figure out that part of their life and what that life will mean to them in that sense, and all along those lines. What advice would you give to folks that want to get into your line of work and everything? So for you, Gigi, if there's somebody that wants to be a romantic writer, what advice would you give them? And for those that want to get into life coaching, Felicia, what advice would you give to them, other than maybe don't do it? And I'm just joking with y'all, because I do think that they're both great careers and everything like that. But what advice would you give to folks?
So for me, Gigi, to be romance, writing a book is on many people's bucket list. And I think when you talked about that, Mark, at the beginning of the show, is that most people have a book in them, whether it be a memoir, whether it be a sci-fi, a crime, it's in there. And so when you're an author or writer, you have to decide every single day that you're going to do it. Never give up on yourself. That first draft is always going to be horrible. Don't worry about that. Keep writing, and you write whatever you can, through, if the kids go to bed at night, if you're on a commute to a train into New York City, you write wherever you can, but you keep on going. And then I always say, I didn't have a whole lot of resources when I started out. I had to develop relationships. I had to develop friendships. So my DMs are always open. I have my author interviews. I have my other podcast. I have networked the heck out of the last 3 years of being an author. And it's important because you need a sense of community. It's a very isolating industry. And so if you can reach out to others, they can tell you where to find an editor. What do you do when you have imposter syndrome? How do you keep going? How do you not have fear, doubt, panic, etc.? And so that's my advice. Just keep going, because when you're, in that nursing home, or when you're at the end of the life staring down at the death's door, what will you regret? Don't let that be one of them.
Hey, Gigi, and I kind of mentioned that earlier, but how do you get people out of imposter syndrome? Because I know whether it's been relationships or whether it's been life in general, but I have talked myself out of jobs. I've talked myself out of relationships, because by the time I talked myself into them, the relationship had gone to somebody else, or the job had gone somewhere else and everything. So I know that I've had those conversations with myself. So how did you get yourself out of that imposter syndrome?
Well, Felicia, I think you talked about imposter syndrome with me and you a moment ago.
Mhm. Yeah, I think a big thing that fuels that imposter syndrome is a sense of a lack of self-worth, a lack of self-value, being able to feel that one is enough, and dealing with insecurity. So when one wants to really address the imposter, um, I think it's really good to do the work to heal some of that, to understand where is this lack of self-worth, self-value, where is it stemming from, where is it coming from? And then really sometimes what has helped me is naming the imposter. Like if there is I separate myself from the energy or the entity that I am working with, and I'm separating it from my highest, greatest version of myself, operating in the highest potential that I can. I separate the two so that I can understand this is the greatest, highest version of myself. And this is the imposter. And this is my lower vibration. This is the resistance that I feel. This is the aspect of me that is holding the shame. What does she need to hear? What does she need to heal? And so understanding and diving into the discomfort of understanding her, hearing her, healing her, and then helping her to integrate into the highest version of myself that I'm seeking to develop. And so it's really going backwards a little bit when it comes to the imposter syndrome. And I know there's a lot of other techniques, but that's one that I've used that has really helped me greatly, is identifying the imposter itself, and healing that sense of lack of self-worth and self-value. And that a lot of that, particularly within women, is generational. And so healing some of those generational ancestral wounds, and some of the trauma that women have experienced in lifetimes before. Women, when you get married back in the day, in some cultures, they were traded out with a cow. You know what I'm saying? So just imagine what that did to some women and their mindset and that sense of worth. I'm no better than, this. And so it's integrated in a lot of us. And so healing that, that's a step and a start.
I totally agree. To me, imposter syndrome comes up on my worst days when I'm doing the hard things.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times it's when we're trying to step into that new higher frequency. That's when all that imposter comes up. Like, who do you think you are? Why would anyone listen to you? What do you have to say? I'm either too old, too young, etc. Yeah. We talked about that. And so it's trying to have that old you die. Yes. Because what you're stepping into is uncomfortable and it's unfamiliar right now, but it won't be forever. It's like, let's say you want to go to a concert and you've never been before and you're nervous and excited. Well, when you've gone to a concert, you've been to it. You're like, oh, I got this. Yeah. So it's similar to that. When you're stepping into a new experience, that's where the imposter syndrome comes up, rearing like she is your girlfriend walking next to you. And every time you put yourself back in that same experience and back in that same experience, you're building familiarity to the point that it kills that imposter syndrome because it's so familiar. It's like me and you, Felicia, we didn't start doing podcast guest appearances. But now we've done so many, you're not nervous. It's familiar. There's no imposter syndrome because you know the value that you bring to hopefully the listeners and to his audience. And to me, imposter syndrome always comes up when we're trying something new, but we don't quit. We sit in the discomfort and we do it again and again and again until it builds that familiarity. And then it's our new norm.
Yeah. It's, asking that question, you said, like, who do you think you are? That's what the question that comes up. It's versus who do you think you are versus, who am I trying to become? It has a different, who am I trying to become? I'm trying to become more skilled or more this or more that. That's who I'm trying to become versus who do you think you are? And what has really helped me is naming that aspect of me. Like Rosita was the part of me that was resistant to me really doing the work. Like every time I would sit down to do something new or challenging or to go live or whatever, Rosita would rise up and I could feel her in me. And sometimes I could feel it in certain parts of my body and I'd be like, Rosita, you know what I'm trying to do? Calm down, relax. I would speak to it as if it was part of me. Henrietta was the part of me that felt unworthy. And then Stabella was the part of me that was self-sabotaging. Once I felt like I reached a certain part in my career, currently. I had dealt with Rosita. She had integrated. Henrietta integrated. And then here comes Stabella, self-sabotaging. I was just self-sabotaging. And when I did the same technique, totally, my career went to a total another level. People started to refer so many people to me that it just shifted things. And it's because I shifted. I brought healing to that energy and that entity. And you're so true. It is literally like an entity that follows right next to us because we have shifted vibrationally. And so that entity that is right there, and it's almost like, what are you doing? What are you trying to do? You know, and asking all of these questions. And so if we can see it as that, and then we don't want to get rid of her. We don't want to downplay her. We want to integrate her and merge her into who we are becoming. So to a degree, honoring her, but not listening to her. I see you, but I'm not responding to you. I'm integrating you into me. And so that's how we can like really level up.
I love that you name all the parts of you.
Yes, I name them. And then River is my higher divine self. That it's from that retreat that I went to that changed my life. We renamed ourselves and I ended up having the name tattooed on my arm. I wanted to have it in a place where I could see it every day. And so I'm reminded that I am River, that I am consistently in the flow of the spirit, of my spirit, and I'm following her to create and evolve into who I came here on this planet to be. So I always have it in front of me and see it on a regular basis. So River is like my highest evolved self, my truest self. And these other entities, I named them. And that technique for me it has really helped me to level up by me seeing those imposters as I'm reaching this higher state of who I'm here to be.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, it works for me.
Well, I think too, one thing I always say is it's not who am I to in an imposter, it's what value can I bring others? So when I turn the situation where it's not centered on me and I center it on the value that I could bring or others, it changes. Yeah. And that's a quick snap to reality.
Yeah. And two, honoring that value. I do agree with you when we say, what value can I bring to other? But it's so important that we ourselves look at that value and feel that value. Allow that value to come back to like, wow, I'm a really good author. And I'm not saying me, I'm talking about you, but just giving words because I am really good at creating stories that help to pull people into another world that they want to experience and exist. I bring great value. I feel that value and embody that value and consume that value within ourselves. We want to do that as well as give it. We want to give it back to ourselves too, as well. And that's what helps with that sense of, that sense of lack of self-worth and self-value, because we are always giving that value back to ourselves. I say to myself, like, I have to say it on a regular basis, I am good at what I do. I haven't always been able to say that, but I can say I am very good at my job in helping people to really identify trapped emotions, trauma, how it's impacting their life, their choices today. And I don't set the intent that I'm going to help you. No, I'm going to empower you by asking you questions because your soul knows exactly what got you here. So I just ask really good questions for them to identify within themselves where they are stuck, where they are blocked, and what are the things they need to do to help get out of this pattern. And then I support them in that, because I think it's really powerful when people hear themselves come up with the solution, because at the end of the day, the solution is within them. And if we can ask good questions, it really helps them to pull it out. And so I can be going into a session, and I said it today, I had a session earlier, I was like, I have no idea how to help this person. I don't know what they need. I don't know what to do. I have no idea. And then I go sit in there. It was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal, life-changing session for him, because I just learned how to ask really good questions. And so, you know, it really does help people to empower themselves to really identify, you know, what things are blocked. But I do believe in taking in value in what we do and feeding ourselves with that value, not for the purpose of getting a big head, but for the purpose of getting a big heart. A big heart that's saying, this is what I do, this is how I serve, and this is what I want to give out to other people. And the more we can pour into ourselves, then the more we can pour out and to give out to other people too as well.
I love that.
That's my positive statement. Then he wanted us to give a positive statement before we wrapped it up. That's my positive thing. Give value back to ourselves.
So where can people find you online if they want to work with you?
They can find me at FeliciaGarrett.com, just FeliciaGarrett.com. And I do offer a 45-minute consultation session, so people can just go on there and click that consultation session, because I want to make sure that what people are looking for and what I have to offer is a fit. And so I don't meet with anyone without that. And then I have a women's retreat that is coming up in January, a detox women's retreat, which I'm so excited and looking forward to in December. And all of my retreats are for women. And so in April of 2026, I'm doing a retreat for abortion. So for women who have experienced abortions and they're still holding on to whether there's guilt, there's shame around that, then I'm really helping, because that can really block some things within our body physically when we've had that experience and we have a lot of guilt and shame around it. So in April is a retreat to help women heal from abortions. In June is a retreat to help women tap into the divine feminine, because in our culture nowadays, women do operate a lot in their masculine. And so we really have neglected the divine feminine energy. So really learning how to tap back into that and finding the value that's in the divine feminine energy. And then in September, it's a retreat for healing, ancestral healing, 7 generations back, to heal some of the ancestral trauma and to break some of the ancestral pathology that we have, that we're continuing on in our generation, our children. And then October is healing from sexual trauma. And so those are the 5 retreats, and the information is on my website at FeliciaGarrett.com.
Well, that is fascinating. Just giving out to everybody.
Yeah, it's exciting. I look forward to serving in that way. It's awesome. So what about you?
So I have more spicy, steamy, naughty fun coming out. So when you're done having your session and your breakthrough with Felicia and you just want a guilty pleasure, you come over to ggmeyer.com and you download a book. It's always older women, younger men, and it is super steamy fun. Yeah. So, and I have on there my podcast. I do Let's Go Live, where I interview authors every Thursday on Instagram at 7 p.m. So if you guys are an author, it doesn't matter if you're in India, traditional, new, aspiring, etc. As long as you have a published book out there, I'd like to help promote it. So ggmeyer.com is where I'm at. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you name it, Substack.
Oh, awesome.
Look at us. We should have our own podcast. All right.
I know. I am going to check it out. I'm excited about that. I already have someone in mind to reach out to you for their book. That would be awesome.
Excellent. Well, it has been a wonderful time meeting you and learning more about you. And I hope that our pathways cross again in the future.
I do as well. Thank you so much for this phenomenal conversation. I appreciate it.
Wishing you all the best and
Thank
all
you.
like full retreats, every one of them.
Thank you. That's the goal. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye.